Kung dati 10 taon ang gugugulin sa elementarya at high school, ngayon aabutin na ng 12 taon ang isang estudyante para matapos siya ng basic education o elementary at high school. Sa ilalim nito, inaasahan ng mga estudyante na mas maisasaulo na ang kanilang mga aralin at mas maihahanda ang kanilang mga sarili sa nais nilang tahaking karera.
Today, we will be looking into the developments of the education sector of the Philippines. Implementation of the K-12 program. The Philippines has been the last country in Southeast Asia and also one of the only 3 countries in the world to have a 10-year basic education system.
The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry warns the first batch of K-12 graduates entering the workforce in March may not be as work-ready as hoped.
Majority of those 600,000, I don't think they really got the sufficient training.
The Philippines had long adopted the 10-year basic education program and produced a great number of professionals. In May 2013, the much-needed overhaul of the Philippine basic education system has become a reality. Through Republic Act 10533, also known as the Enhanced Basic Education Act, signed by the then President Benigno Noynoy Aquino, making the pre-university and the basic education from 10 years to 13 years. It covers kindergarten, 6 years of elementary, 4 years of junior high, and 2 additional years of the senior high school. It prepares the Filipino students to become better equipped with the necessary skills and knowledge to make them competitive, not only with their ASEAN counterparts, but with the world as well. It aims to provide students with sufficient time to master the basic concepts and skills, develop into lifelong learners, and prepare graduates for higher education in colleges and universities, future enrollment, and entrepreneurship. But the additional 2 years in the senior high school has not been positively received by many Filipinos. There has been a clamor for possible alternatives.
Good afternoon, Sir Ross, Ms. D. I'd like to thank you for really giving me the time to be able to talk with you regarding the Step Up program. Of course, there are competencies that must be met because there are competencies set forth by the Department of Education. Now, how does Step Up meet the competencies of the basic education required by the Department of Education of the Philippines?
We teachers, we made sure that all the materials and our manner of teaching lead our students to getting highest level of competencies that they need.
The same as Mr. Ross? Considering all the experiences that you've had, the difficulties that you've had, would you say that your Step Up program is a good alternative for the added 2 years of the senior high? I mean, would this help because it saves the student 1 year? Do you think that this is a viable alternative to lessen the additional 2 years?
Personally, yes, of course. It may have its flaws, but the brilliance of the program is far way better. The students felt that it was a great achievement for them.
I agree with what Ms. D said.
Okay.
The basic education curriculum in the Philippines was influenced by colonial history and different eras. The pre-Spanish, the Spanish, the Americans, and the Japanese. During the pre-Spanish era, children were educated already. Academic and practical education were established during those times. The parents were the teachers as the fathers would teach their sons of manly tasks like being warriors, hunters, fishermen, miners, lumbermen, and shipbuilders. While mothers would teach their daughters womanly duties like cooking, gardening, sewing, serving, and other household chores. The purpose was to prepare the boys and girls to be good husbands and wives when they have their own family. During the Spanish era, elementary schools, colleges, and universities run by friars were established in the country. The ultimate reason of Spanish in conquering the Philippines was to convert native Filipinos to Christianity and to become obedient and God-fearing Christians. For this reason, religion was a mandatory subject at all levels, from primary up to the universities. Males were given the priority to take bachelor's degree, while women were the victims of the patriarchal society. During the American colonization, education allowed them to share their culture, particularly the English language, to the Filipinos. American government wanted to give everyone a chance to study, thus building more public schools and giving free school supplies to every student. The elementary level consisted of 4 primary years and 3 intermediate years. The secondary or high school level consisted of 4 years, and the third was the college or tertiary level. During the Japanese regime in the Philippines, nationalism became the highlight as Japanese conquerors intensified the learning of the Filipino culture. Dedication and dignity of work were instilled in minds of Filipinos. Primary and vocational education were also given importance. From the American era until 2015, the basic education system of the country was composed of kindergarten or nursery at the age of 4 to 5. 6 years of elementary education starting at the ages 6 to 7, and 4 years of high school education starting at the age of 12 to 13, and 4 years of college or technical and vocational schools. To date, Filipinos are a product of a 10-year public educational system. Our outstanding leaders were educated in a 10-year public school system.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Santos. Yeah, I know you're very busy, but I'd like to say thank you for saying yes to this invitation. I really appreciate it. I just would like to ask you information about the experience of your daughter when she was part of the Step Up program of the school. So, can you describe the Step Up program implementation in your child's school?
It was a big decision on my part, as I know it will not be easy, but the school did very well because my child was able to learn how to be more serious and disciplined.
Do you think this Step Up program is a good alternative to save the additional 2 years?
Yes, it is, because it is a great help to students and parents as well. Here in the Philippines, I can say that it must be developed because if our children can do it here, then it is not impossible for other Filipino children to do and perform as well.
Many Filipinos believe that the country was clearly unprepared when it implemented the K-12 program. A lot argued that even with the 10 years of basic education that the Philippines had back then, there were still schools, particularly in far areas and remote communities, which lacked the necessary materials, equipment, classrooms, and teachers for the students. And this dilemma was worsened because of the added 2 years. To give an illustration, last June 2016, there were schools that had to conduct classes under trees, and there were a lack of materials which caused a difficulty for the teachers and the students. Thus, the people of the Philippines believed that it would have been better if the government focused on resolving those issues first regarding the resources rather than adding 2 years of education, which resulted to a higher amount of scarcity. The K-12 program also had a negative impact towards families, especially parents who would now have to be paying an additional amount of 2 years' worth of tuition fees. Not to mention that there are millions of poor Filipinos who are unable to continue their education since they can no longer afford the added expenses. According to the official report of the Philippine Statistics Authority in 2016, more than 26 million Filipinos remain poor, with almost half, or a little more than 12 million, living in extreme poverty and lacking the means to feed themselves. This is sad news since education is believed to be the way towards improving their lives, yet ironically, it has now become a heavy burden towards the Filipino masses.
For me, there are pros and cons of the K-12 program. The subjects taught will serve as a good foundation for college. There are specialized and core subjects depending on the track of the student. It also made college less overwhelming since the students were already briefed and introduced about the program they wanted to pursue. Now, based on my experience, there were 40 of us in a class and more than 30 wanted to pursue accounting. But now in college, there were only 10 to 15 of us who continued with the program. It is rather disappointing that the promise of the government to the K-12 graduates are not fulfilled. Many companies do not hire K-12 graduates simply because they prefer college graduates. And now the biggest con that we have for this program is that the additional expenses the families have to incur. Now we have to bear in mind that our country has a rising poverty rate, and having these 2 additional years will just worsen the case.
You know what's really disappointing? It's not even the 2 years we have to study, but rather on how our parents should work hard when they could spend those saving time and money. Yes, the program itself is indeed a progressive learning for students, so that they could prepare for the challenges of college life. But we should acknowledge the achievements of those who graduated before. They have excelled in their profession without the need for the 2-year learning, and prove to us that we Filipinos doesn't need to align ourselves with the educational system of other countries, because we are the epitome of a globally competitive society. The Filipino students already upholds the intelligence in order to be successful. Needless to say, those 2 years doesn't define or equate the improvement we will have. It depends upon us on how we will improve ourselves in order to excel.
The 2 years in senior high is good because it made our students become prepared to enter college, but it also means added expenses for our families. The most successful people in our country are products of K-10 and have become our idols, heroes, and heroines. It must not really be an additional 2 years, but simply additional units that could encapsulate in certain programs.
Hi, Rose, and hi, Ijo. I'd like to thank you for the time that you said yes to me. Thank you so much for saying yes that this interview is going on. I just would like to ask you about your experiences, about your step-up program in this institution. I'd like to ask you, what are your unforgettable experiences while you were in the program quite a number of years ago? Rose?
I believe one of those experiences is when I had difficulty in juggling all my subjects in a very short period of time. I remember when I really wanted to divide myself into pieces just to do all my tasks per subject.
Yes, I would agree with you. I was also a student before. Yeah, it was so difficult to really divide the time. Yes, right. How about you, Ijo?
For me, there were so many sleepless nights. Obviously, because I really need to manage my time to study all of my subjects in a very short period of time. Also, I find it really difficult since I was still adjusting, and at the same time, I will not be able to bond with my family and friends during my summer vacation or during this program.
Do you think the competencies required by the Department of Education were met by the program? Because you were saying like it's very short period of time, but do you think the things that you needed to learn, were you able to get it still, given the very short period of time?
My answer would be a big yes, since in my experience, I have observed that the students who took the step-up program can also blend with the students who did not take the step program. Also, I was able to grasp the lessons very well, even though I wasn't able to take the whole year of grade 5.
Oh, great! How about you, Rose?
Yes, I think she is right. The competencies were met, and our teachers provided us with all help and good materials. We could be at par with our regular classmates.
Anything you would want to advise this time, being able to become winners already, what advice would you give to others who would be taking a step up? With all the difficulties that you've encountered, what have you learned from it?
I think just be open to possibilities, be open to learn, and of course, be a sociable person and try to be a leader, and I think that would be great.
Yes, how about you, Ijo?
I would want to add something to what she said. I want them to go out of their comfort zones, and then I want them to always be positive, like they can do everything as long as they have the dedication to achieve something that they want to achieve. Thank you so much. You're really the creator of the craft of your school.
Thank you so much, and God bless.
Our history proves the evolution of our educational system. Our country is into embracing the developments of the world around us. Decisions have to be made to make us at par and abreast with the development of our fellow Asian countries. However, in a country like ours, we need to think of solutions and alternatives. We are all created in the image and likeness of God, with intellectual capacity and ability to think. In this world of discovery, when decisions result to problems of many, a solution has to be served and suggested. As a Lasallian educator whose heart for mission is etched in the totality of my being, and as a Christian trained in IAS who believes in the power of God's guidance and powerful intercession, I say, based on the study conducted, that Step Up program must be carefully studied and considered as a viable avant-garde alternative for the added 2 years in the K-12 curriculum of the Philippines. Animo!